Alright, finally as the last piece of dynamic lighting, or the last piece of the basic Roll20 functions to be a DM, let's go ahead and create a new map and put D&D Dungeon. Let's find a more dark battle map, something that needs dynamic lighting to play. Again, we're looking for something that is a X by X. So first one we find, that's the one we will use. Nothing so far. Sometimes on Pinterest you can find some by scrolling, just because some people name their stuff, some don't, but you can use other maps. It's just the dimensions may be a little harder to play with, I guess. So let's first find a dungeon map. Okay, you see how we're getting all these dungeon maps now? What I've found is these guys, CZE and Peku, do a lot of good stuff, and there's another one that does good stuff. General map makers. So we found three here. We have the Big Bandit Dungeon, the Horror Hill, and then we have the Grotto. Doesn't matter what. Oh, and here's a lava river. Let's do this one. So again, we're going to hit the little Patreon link to try to get the full-size version. And the full-size version is right here. So we'll just hit save image. 24 by 47. So here we have our copy. First we need to clear out the stuff that's on this map. So go to objects and GM, whoops, token, and 22 by 47. And then it's just as simple as pulling it in, which we've already learned how to do. And actually, this was a terrible map to take. I am sorry. And I realized why we needed to take the other one, is because we're doing dynamic lighting, not just a normal map. Well, my apologies, we're going to take this one. And this one is 50 by 80. So save. Okay, we just need the low-res version. Most of the time people are just so excited that you took the time to make a map that they're just happy to play. So 50 by 80. Throw it in. And then wait for it. Some files, as you can see, take a little longer than others. I really depend on the size of the map. 50 by 80 is a pretty big map. So let's do this. I've had maps bigger, but this one's still a great size because, as you can see, there's a lot of places for them to go. So now we send this to the map layer. Perfect. And we are on the map layer. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is go here to dynamic lighting, which is hover the map, go to the gear, and go to dynamic lighting. Turn it on. Explorer mode is if you want them to basically be able to see what they've already explored. Daylight mode is like a global illumination, like a sunny day style. Update on token drop. Sometimes I enable this, but for the most part, I do not. So as you can see, the map went dark. So if we pull Alexander the Great here onto the map, he's on the token layer. Then what we can do is go here to dynamic lighting. Most players these days have dark vision, so we're going to put in 60 feet, tint color, whatever color. I usually pick a different color for everyone. And so I do 55 feet and 5 feet of dimming because that gets to the edge of their vision range. You can limit the field of vision if you want them to just see one direction, or you can give them the full 360. Bright light and low light. So as you can see now, Alexander the Great has his stuff ready to go. We just, again, HP, AC, now he's good. But what we do to check that he can see is we rejoin as a player to see everything's working. We aren't even on the right map, so rejoin as TM. All the players over here, then rejoin as a player. So what this should do is give us this great map here, and as you can see, it's like more of your standard dungeon crawl. Now there's a couple of downsides to this without using the dynamic lighting. For instance, they can obviously see beyond areas, like say this rock would cut off some vision over here. It's more prevalent in say mazes where you don't want them to see past certain points. But I'm going to show you what daylight mode looks like so you can decide what works best for your games. Dynamic, daylight. I like daylight mode a little bit better, but it's player preference, right? If you want that feeling of darkness. Oops. Daylight mode should just be... Oh yeah, we have to turn down the brightness. So we turn down the brightness. I think that daylight mode gives a little bit more color. So let's rejoin as a player so that you can see what it looks like. As you can see, we can kind of see the outline of the map, and you can see our guy. Now, as you can see, the players that zoom out can see the entire dungeon. We don't want that. So, how do we rectify this situation? We go to the dynamic lighting layer, and we grab our freehand wall, and then regular. You can make this whatever color is not going to blend in with your map. So we'll use pink, and then you just start tracing the basic outline of your wall. So you see how that cut off vision for him? Great, now we're going to do the same thing over here. I don't focus on being a perfectionist here, as you know, if it's a perfect cave, then whoops. Cool, but for the most part, caves aren't perfect either. I just fast trace and just make sure that I'm connecting all the points. And then we can do try to get as close to the edge as possible, for the most part. But we want to stay in the black area because that's what the map maker intended for vision. So here we're just tracing. And as you can see, I'm not worried about perfection here, and you shouldn't either. So, yeah. We need to draw that cool. You can be a perfectionist on this, but I can tell you it's not going to make that much of a difference once they actually get to the player, because your players can't see this, right? So not too much of an issue. So let's get whoops. Let's get the launchers up here. This is what terrible art stills does. Our goal is to try to get this done quickly because we don't really want to be wasting all of our time on lighting that people are going to look at for a couple of seconds. If you're running a full campaign, that the lighting, every inch of the lighting matters, you may want to put a little bit more time than I'm putting in, but this is just a tutorial of how to do it, and we're just exploring some of the options. So let's come over here, finish off our little rocks. So you see how our player is losing vision as we're doing this? That's what we want to see. So then you create little circles, right? This shuts down vision in places you don't want the player to be able to see around. We can do the same for a square, right? If this is too big for them to see around it, nix that. We got a little table here, table here, lever here, table, square, circle, square. And you're free to just do this however you see fit, right? If you don't care that they see these areas, don't do this, right? This is all player or DM preference. Like here's a rock. If you want to draw a normal freehand again, just to get this little staircase in here. Shut down a little vision. Make it darker in areas by all means. So you want the player to focus on the bridge and the boat, so we're not going to draw a shape around those. Let's do this. Try to make more vision with these rocks here as they're little obstacles, and then freehand again, just to try to draw like that. This area is darker type feel. And on the inside, you can come on the inside, but it will create an issue of, like if you come inside this wall, it'll allow you to not see on both sides, which is what the feel that most people are going for when they build these kind of dungeons. Instead, you just want to make sure that the outside is fully, blocked off. You can pick to do the inside, or you can pick to do the outside. I do the outside rather than the inside. So let's put our little circle here. A couple of barrels. And then if you want these to be traps, then make them dark, right? And then make a spot that they can see in. if they're truly interested. If they just want to jump down here for whatever reason, that's on them. Do the same thing over here. But it's a little suspicious if you do it that way, right? So most players won't fall for it. Do this little... Okay, so now let's go back and look at what our player can see. Alright, so now you see that our player has to move to see where he's going. And then he can't find a way across. We'll pretend he can, just for the sake of this. And as you can see, the rocks and everything kind of create this darkness. Then as we come up here, you see how they can see the boat. Now they hop on the boat. And they see, instead of just seeing that camp, they just see that there's land over here. So they might take the boat over here, and then you can set up an encounter at these camp. This is the importance of dynamic lighting, because it sets up kind of those feelings of being in a cave or a labyrinth that you may want for your game. There's probably better lighting tutorials out there. I just wanted you to see kind of what a basic, like 5-minute job can do. And now we are going to get on to tutorials. Stay tuned.